things that are important to playing winning defense: block destruction, communication, ball disruption, effort and angles. We've added tackling in as another one. When you turn on the Chargers tape, or you tune us in on a Sunday, you know, I want there to be a level of expectation for the people watching of what they want it to look like.
Jesse Minter loves to blitz, and he was the best at disguising his coverages and blitzes in college football last year. The Chargers right now, they are in the midst of revamping their roster from the Telesco and Staley era to now the Jim Harbaugh and Joe Hortiz era. So we can expect a lot of turnover at a bunch of positions on this team. And we already saw it in the wide receiver room, because I don't think anyone expected Keenan Allen to get traded until it just like smacked us right in the face. But there is one position group that I think Jesse Minter and Jim Harbaugh value very highly because of the way that they utilize them in their scheme. And I think that position group could see some major turnover and look completely different by this time next year. And that position group is the defensive line. Now, let me get this straight. First of all, I'm not talking about the entire defensive line with guys like Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, like those edge players. I'm talking mainly about the big boys up front on defense, like the 0 tech, the nose tackles, to the 5 tech, the guys that play along the defensive interior. I think based off what they've done at this position, they've indicated what they value there and what they want to do on defense with those guys. The biggest guy that they added is Justin Eboigbe, the 4th round draft pick from Alabama. And this one honestly was kind of a surprise to most people, me included. Like, not a lot of guys had him on their radar for the Chargers to go out and get, but Justin Eboigbe, he brings to the Chargers strength, ability to stop the run, as he graded as the best defensive lineman against the run on a very good Alabama team, but he has pass rush ability as well. He has shown the ability to perform stunt moves when he's designed to crash into the offensive lineman to free up somebody else, and also when he's asked to be that free rusher. He doesn't really have great size because he is under 300 pounds. He's not the best athlete in the world. As you can see, like his RES score right here, not great. But what the Chargers are valuing here with this draft pick is obviously his strong hands and his pass rush potential as an interior defensive lineman. But he also has that positional versatility because Alabama, they lined him up all over the defensive line. So I think in the NFL, he can be like a 3 tech all the way to a 5 tech player and used in a lot of different formations and defensive fronts. Lots of blitz packages that you can use, which is exactly what Jesse Minter wants to do. Scheme up blitzes and a lot of different looks in order to confuse the offense. I mean, drafting a guy like Justin Eboigbe, it allows you the ability to get creative, just like he did at Michigan, because if you just have a run stuffer with no pass rush ability on your interior defensive line, like, they're not going to be able to pose any threat in the passing game, and you're immediately hamstrung in the amount of blitzes and defensive alignments that you can draw up specifically on those passing downs. And those passing downs, typically that's like a 3rd down. Those are the money downs. That's where you win and lose football games. So drafting Justin Eboigbe is more than just about him as a player and his strength, but it's also about Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator, and what he wants to do and run in this defense. You know what? Let me just show you a couple of blitzes that incorporate the defensive line so that you can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. First blitz I want to show you is actually designed to get the linebacker Junior Colson open. And you can see we have 4 guys on the line of scrimmage. You can't really see this defensive lineman right here, but there are 2 D linemen right there. What they're going to do is crash this interior of the offensive line. We're trying to occupy all 3 of these guys. And we have the linebacker, Michael Barrett, vacate that area and get into zone coverage right here because Junior Colson is coming on this blitz. He's vacating this entire middle of the field. And because this linebacker is leaving and he was on the line of scrimmage, it's going to leave this guard and tackle with nobody to block. But we have these 2 defensive linemen coming from this area crashing all the way over here. So this guy's going to take both the center and the guard, and Chris Jenkins is going to take that guard, pull him towards the inside, and then crash onto the center. And it's going to leave this huge gap for Junior Colson to blitz and get that QB hit. Boom. Now this one is really, really creative because we have this linebacker on the line of scrimmage like he's going to blitz. We have 5 guys on the line. And what we're going to do, keep an eye on this defensive lineman, Mason Graham. He's going to be a very high 1st round pick next year, but he is going to crash towards this left side. We have this linebacker going back into zone. So this guard is like, okay, I see where he's coming. I'm going to look over here. But instead of him crashing towards the guard, we're going to whip him all the way out, and we're going to crash the edge into the guard. And he also took the tackle as well. So we have our defensive lineman getting all the way outside and getting that pressure on the edge coming from this interior position. That is like a one technique on the shade of the center, and he's getting pressure on the left side edge, while also this edge player is getting pressure because this guard, he thought that this man was coming right in his face, pause, but the edge player is actually crashing into him. So it's just a fake crash all set up by this linebacker just being on the line of scrimmage, pretending like he's going to blitz. He goes back. Oh, I think this guy's coming. No, he's not. Boom. Smacked right in the face by the edge player. You get a ton of pressure on this play. A very creative blitz. Here's another blitz designed to get the linebacker in the second level right here. A wide open rushing lane towards the quarterback. Now we have 5 guys threatening the rush on the line of scrimmage. And as you can see, we have 3 guys on this side, on the strong side of the play. And we're just going to drop our edge player back into coverage. And it's going to create problems because now all of these Alabama offensive linemen, the center, right guard, and right tackle are all looking towards this side of the play because it was supposed to be a 3-on-3. But instead, what we're doing here is we have our wide 9 rushing man on the edge on the left side, taking this really wide path towards the quarterback to take that tackle out of this gap. And then we have Mason Graham, our defensive lineman, going with that freaking quickness, taking this guard and crashing into the center to really widen that gap for Michael Barrett to just shoot right through and get an easy sack. So those linebacker blitzes are going in this Alabama game. These offensive linemen are really looking at Junior Colson in the second level right here. And as you can see, he's going to be blitzing. The guard has his eyes up. So they are expecting it at this point. What we have right now are these edge players just basically taking the tackles out of the play because they're going on this really wide 9 rushing stance. You can see both these guys are on an island. The interior guys are the ones we're looking at. So we have our first defensive lineman right here crashing into the center and the right guard, while this man, Chris Jenkins, is going from this spot all the way over. And we have Junior Colson now, the blitzing linebacker, getting picked up. But we have Chris Jenkins wrapping all the way towards that other side, and it creates so much problems for this offensive line, so many problems for this offensive line. Look at it in real speed. This interior defensive line completely crashing the interior Alabama offensive line, while you have those 2 guys on the edge, basically on an island. That's going to be Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. So you think one of those guys is going to win? I mean, it's just when you have pressure like this on the interior with those 2 edge rushers, you're going to have a lot of problems for those offensive lines. Now I want to take a second to remind you guys about Underdog Fantasy, my favorite fantasy sports app. If you click on the link in the description and use my code McLean, that is MACLANE, you can get up to $100 of your first deposit matched back. This is the best way to support me, man. I'm so glad that I can continue working with Underdog because, like I said, they are my favorite fantasy sports app. But if you use my code, I'm very appreciative of that, man. It helps me out so much. Back to the video. So now that we've seen what the plan is, we can get a pretty good idea of what this position group is going to evolve into very soon. One thing that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but I think is, kind of worth noting, is that Morgan Fox stayed on this team when a lot of people assumed that he would be a cap casualty. I mean, I kind of thought he was going to be cut as well. Would have saved the Chargers $3.5 million, but Michigan, typically they used a lot of bigger defensive linemen that were over 300 pounds. Like Morgan Fox is 275 pounds-ish and not really a great run stuffer, but he does have that pass rush ability. He fits the same bill that Justin Eboigbe does, even though Justin Eboigbe, he is a more stout defender against the run, in my opinion, but they're both under 300 pounds, and they can create interior pressure and can be used in blitzes and have that positional versatility to play up and down the defensive line. I think the fact that they kept Morgan Fox and didn't go for those cap savings, it shows that they have a plan to use him, and the way he was used last year with Brandon Staley, who is not a defensive guru, we can establish that. He was used in a lot of blitzes, rushing next to either Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack. And now this year, I think he's going to be used in a lot of stunt moves like we just saw. And the fact that they drafted Justin Eboigbe to me, it shows that, this is what they want in their interior defensive linemen. They're kind of double dipping there with Morgan Fox and Justin Eboigbe, but we can go even further because the undrafted free agent, Michael Mason, is the only interior defensive lineman that they signed. And this dude from Coastal Carolina, he impressed me, bro. Honestly, if you haven't seen my undrafted free agent video, you should check it out. He was the very first one I talked about, but the gist of it is, he was kind of like Justin Eboigbe light because he had violent hands. He was used all over that defensive line. He showed some really good interior pressure against the pass. I mean, he was messing up that UCLA offensive line. And also, he was able to perform those stunt moves. On top of that, he is also under 300 pounds. So now we're starting to see a trend here. I think what they're doing is they're sacrificing that size of the defensive line group in order to prioritize like play strength and pass rush. Also, I didn't even mention like Poona Ford, who we signed in free agency. He's the same kind of defensive lineman, except he's more suited to be like a 0 tech to a 3 tech rather than closer to the edge because he lacks size and height rather than weight. He's 5'11", 310 pounds though. And also he's much better against the run. So ideally you have him in the middle to eat up those blockers in the run game, but he actually graded way better as a pass rusher than a run defender this year in Buffalo. And he has great play strength and pass rush ability. That's what they're looking for. I think as we get closer to the season and teams make cuts in training camp, we're going to see the Chargers add more defensive linemen that fit this mold. Right now, they have Chris Hinton, Jared Clark, Otita Ogbonia, and Scott Matlock, so they need depth pretty badly. Chris Hinton, he's a former Michigan man, so I think he's a sleeper to probably get some more playing time this season. But guys like Jared Clark, Otita Ogbonia, I don't think they fit exactly what the Chargers want, so I would keep an eye on them. But maybe they keep one of those guys as the designated run defender on early downs, which, that wouldn't be a bad idea. And also, if you did not see my video yesterday, I talked all about the offensive line, not the defensive line.